All right, it's now been several weeks since the shooting occurred on the set of Rust, where Alec Baldwin tragically shot and killed Helena Hutchins, the cinematographer, and injured the director Joel Souza. And we're finding out a lot of information about what went on, but there's a lot of conflicting reports as well. From the very beginning, we heard things about this set. Even before the shooting actually occurred, we heard things about what went down on this set, that it was incredibly irresponsible, that people weren't taking things seriously, that the conditions were incredibly bad, and that led to a large portion of the crew walking off the set just hours before the fatal shooting happened. Well, now more people are coming out and corroborating a lot of that, because the armorer, Hannah Gutierrez-Reed, has rejected that. Her and her lawyers have come out and tried to pass the blame onto everybody else and potentially indicate it was sabotage or some sort of setup. Alec Baldwin, of course, has done everything he can to push the blame away and pretend like he's the victim in this entire situation. But more people from the crew are speaking up about the conditions that were occurring, how unsafe it was, and potentially who they blame for this. Rust gun crew was, quote, immature and horrified, people on set report. This is from the New York Post. The fatal accident happened on set of the Bonanza Creek Ranch. The crew responsible for the weapons on Alec Baldwin's doomed Rust movie were, quote, alarmingly green, immature, and lackadaisical. I love that lackadaisical word. I use that all the time, according to a report. Head armorer Hannah Gutierrez-Reed, 24, and the assistants who worked with her on the Santa Fe, New Mexico set allegedly played around with the weapons, left them leaning against their own bodies, or propped them up with the barrel in the ground. Are you kidding me? Sometimes while they played with their cell phones, a horrified source told Fox News. Last month, Baldwin accidentally shot and killed cinematographer Helena Hutchins and wounded director Joel Souza with the weapon he thought was a, quote, cold gun. And we've talked about this a lot. I've stated many, many times, I think there's a lot of blame to go around between the armorer, the AD, everybody on set, and of course, Alec Baldwin himself. Not only for his role as producer and responsible for the safety of the crew and everything that's going on, but of course as the man who ultimately pulled the trigger, who didn't check it. The last line of defense could have been Alec Baldwin. So a lot of blame to go around, to be sure. Images taken before the shooting obtained by Fox show Gutierrez-Reed and two other women standing in a circle with a pair of Old West rifles and a revolver, with the barrel of one weapon laying against the abdomen of one woman and the other using her hip to prop up a gun. Now, when you get in these situations, you can get lackadaisical. You really can. When you handle weapons so much, there's going to be some people that feel like, oh, well, it's not that bad. It's okay. It's safe. Now, people that are actually strict and adhere to safety protocols don't get that way. They realize that this is a danger at any and all times. Something could happen. You got to be responsible with it. However, there are some people who don't take themselves that seriously. And it looks like Hannah Gutierrez-Reed was one of those people. People didn't know the rules, a source told the news station. At another point, Gutierrez-Reed was handed a gun as she sat on the ground playing with her phone and allegedly accepted the weapon and put it in her waistband without even looking up, a source told Fox. Gutierrez-Reed's dad is a famed movie armorer. Stuff like that just seemed unprofessional, and it does not create an atmosphere of safety or professionalism. When you find out she says her training came from her father, you think, oh, she's a hire because of her connections. The news comes after the report of 2 accidental discharges on set, 1 accidental special effects explosion, and an allegation that the prop gun involved in the fatal accident had been used by crew members to shoot cans for fun. And Hannah Gutierrez-Reed and her lawyers are disputing all of this. They're saying she did everything right. She did everything professionally. She did everything in her power to maintain a safe set. Well, basically all the other reports say that's just not true. Camera assistant Lane Looper, who walked off the set before the fatal shooting, described Gutierrez-Reed's armory crew as 3 inexperienced people. It's fine on a low-budget production to have inexperienced people, but your department heads shouldn't be, or people handling firearms shouldn't be. It seemed like she was also under a lot of pressure to rush. That is something that she did confirm, that she felt like she was doing too much. So maybe that is a potential cause of this as well. Insiders say Gutierrez-Reed, who is paid less than $8,000 for her work, was hired because of cheapness and nepotism. Oh, man. It is not looking good for a lot of people, including Hannah Gutierrez-Reed. And hey, if I were her, if I were her, I would be doing the same thing. I would be pushing as much blame as I potentially could, because my life could be on the line. I could be going to prison. Who knows what could happen? I could be bankrupt for the rest of my life. But at the same time, man, and it's not a good look to come out and say all these things, have your lawyers say all these things when everybody on set is saying something completely different. And if now you are lying and digging yourself in a hole, that's only going to be worse for you. Now, we can't let this completely throw us off the path of holding Alec Baldwin responsible for this as well, if he deserves to be held accountable. And I think basically everyone says he should in some way, shape, or form. But that doesn't mean that everyone else is not to blame. And from everything that's come out, it certainly looks as though the armor, Hannah Gutierrez-Reed, 24 years old, more concerned with OnlyFans and her TikTok than she was with gun safety. It definitely looks like she's potentially someone to blame as well. A lot going on in this case, and we're going to continue to cover it. Thanks for watching, everyone. And a huge shout out to my patrons. I appreciate you guys so much. Want to follow me on Twitter or Instagram? Check out the description below. You'll find links to my P.O. box and my Patreon as well. And I'll talk to you guys later.